Hello everyone and welcome to Wheel Footy, the most record-breaking wheelchair football series on YouTube. Probably. Before we go into this week's games, a short view back to the past. Last week, as you probably remember, was the VWFL Grand Final, which St Kilda ended up winning somewhat comfortably. I promised you a statistical analysis on that fixture, and here it is. Let's look at how the teams stacked up. St Kilda registered around 50% more disposals than the Tigers, but registered the same amount of attacking entries. Critically, the sides registered the same amount of turnovers, which clues you into the disposal efficiency of the two sides. Defensively, the Saints weren't completely dominant, with 16 rebounds and only 6 tackles compared to Richmond's 19 rebounds and 29 tackles. However, most of those tackles were laid on St Kilda players who'd gotten first sight of the ball at stoppages. Ben Noble, playing midfield all day, registered 21 hitouts from 31 contests, with 15 of those going directly to Saints receivers, helping the Saints to a 14-7 clearance differential. In addition, the Saints actually won most of their one-on-one defensive contests, with Richmond only beating St Kilda in one of the 15 contests their defenders got into, the lowest rate I've recorded all year. And that goes to show how strong Ryan Smith and Sebastian Welsh were up front all day. On a player-by-player basis, you may remember that my pick for the best on ground was Sean Groenewegen, who played a sweeping half-back kind of role. My stat feeder scores indeed back that up, with Groners registering an Adam Roki-like 234 points to make him the highest scorer on ground by far. He racked up 49 touches from the back line, with a staggering 21 of St Kilda's 33 forward zone entries coming from his hands. For reference, that's twice as many as any SANFL player averages so far this season, with Roki's season record only being 18. Add to that 11 rebounds, equaling the SANFL record, 5 centre clearances, 2 defensive contest one-on-one wins, and 2 intercept marks, and you have a performance that won St Kilda the grand final. Not that Seb Welsh was an undeserving winner at all. His 160 points extrapolates to 182 if you consider time off the ground, with his 6 goals and 34 touches, as well as a fair smattering of all sorts of contributions, a key pillar in St Kilda's eventual victory. Ryan Smith, with his 8 goals and about 50% of game time, only gets 160 points per 40 minutes, as his only contributions outside of his 8 goals for was 1 inside 50 for an assist, and 2 times where the ball hit him off a bad pass and went out of bounds, which unfortunately counts against him, as his was technically the last touch. Still though, a very, very impressive performance for the time on ground, and absolutely pivotal in the Saints' win. Ben Noble, the midfielder, had a good day out with 31 touches, 5 forward zone entries, 4 rebounds and 6 goal assists, the same amount as Groners. Even St Kilda's lesser lights were able to chip in with great things. The St Kilda and Nick Bryant kicked 3 goals in a cameo performance, and Michael Milton contributed with 2 defensive contest wins for no losses, as well as 10 1%ers in a typical keyback style performance. For Richmond, as it was last match, James Wynett was their best by a handy margin, with 174 stat feeder points across his time in all 3 positions, comprising mainly of 27 touches, 11 forward zone entries, 13 1%ers, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 centre clearances, as well as Richmond's only defensive contest win and their only 6 hitouts of the day. They needed 2 of him, basically, and the absence of Tisha Shadwell as a presence in the centre really showed. Chris Kotsanis registered 163 points, but that was largely off the back of 15 tackles, almost all of which were on Seb Welsh in particular, as Welsh got the ball from the ruck tap instantly, and just Chris Kotsanis was basically positioned behind him, ready to tackle him. So he put pressure on, but it didn't really do much, as Welsh could just sort of handball it away. So that, as well as 8 1%ers, sort of overvalue his stat feeder score slightly. Outside of that, his 21 touches generated 8 forward zone entries, as well as 4 goals for himself and 2 assists for the other forwards. And then there's a big drop to Ange Mavroudis, who was handy but not game-breaking with his 16 touches, 4 goals, 1 and 4 tackles, and Jude Anthony, who chipped in with 7 rebounds and 7 forward zone entries, but went 0 for 6 on defensive one-on-one contests. Shannon Sykes did some good things, but his 5 turnovers from 12 touches soured his score somewhat. And that's it for the Victorian League for this season. Again, thank you to all involved who, put on great shows. And like I say to everyone, it's not me who's doing the good things here. It's the people who are on the field and people who are organising the show. And once again, thanks to everyone who had a chat to me whilst I was over in Victoria. Again, great fun, and wish you guys all the best for the National Carnival, which I believe is in September. Well, I say all the best. I still hope South Australia win, but, go well. Anyway, with that done, it's time to move on to the final SANFL fixtures of the regular season. With the grand finalists already locked in, unless both the underdogs recorded 100-point wins, these matches promise to be meaningless dead rubbers, unless Trevor Jarrett had anything to say about it. He entered this match on 87 goals, averaging 12.5 per game for every match that he was in the forward line so far this season. Add that to his goal tally before the night and he ends up with 99, just missing out on the league's first 100-goal season in its history. And that just wouldn't do. He goes up against a Central side that's not only missing star man Darren Peters for the rest of the season, but also for this night only his replacement in Jason Tippins. An exhausted and depleted Centrals were never in it. Jarrett getting 6 in the first term with the Eagles up 48-0 at the first break. While Centrals did claw back a couple of goals in the second, Jarrett scored another 6, with Steve Edge chipping in a still impressive 4 goals to half-time, neither of the Eagles' aces missing as they led 16 straight to 2 straight at the main break. Jarrett already was on 99. After about a minute and a half of the third quarter, the Eagles try and feed Jarrett, but James Barker, who'd battled hard all day, covers him and spoils a Roki pass out of bounds. Roki takes the inbounds kick and finds Jarrett in a traditional wheeling back over the pack fashion. He makes no mistake, and he registers the SANFL's first 100-goal wheelchair season, causing a small crowd invasion, which was absolutely fantastic and a great moment to be a part of, but it did take the sting out of the game a little bit, with the Eagles only scoring 2 more goals for the rest of the quarter. They even registered their first miss when Izzy Nitschke only just missed a shot a lot of the crowd thought was in. Nitschke had some good chances, but unfortunately narrowly missed all of them, with the Eagles 17-3 straight up, a 99-point lead. Jarrett had 15 to this point, and now there was only one order of business left: reclaiming the single-game goal-kicking record. Jamie Smythe, if you remember, had set it earlier on in the season against a very fresh West outfit, knocking 20 past the Bloods. It was a haul so intense that the commentators actually lost track of how many goals he scored. They registered 19, he actually got 20, which was good because I registered 20 in my spreadsheet, and yada yada yada. Despite a start that was slowed by giving an easy chance off to Cooper Spillane, Jarrett began clawing away at the record, but it looked as if he was off the pace. But then Cooper Spillane came alive, playing a very high forward role to dominate clearances and provide quality ball for Jarrett, whose reach eclipsed all 3 of the defenders that Centrals used. A Spillane intercept on the half-forward line saw Jarrett equal the record with about 3 minutes left, and it only took another 30 seconds for his next chance. He took it, he converted, and he moved into first place outright with 21. A series of late Eagles intercepts led to 2 more chances for Jarrett, getting his 23rd and final goal after the siren, which I believe ties a Ryan Smith effort from 2024 against the Hawks as a national record. The Eagles ended up winning 171-25, which just fell a goal short of both the singles game score and margin records, which I believe are both held by the Redlegs from that match against West, where Jamie kicked 20 goals. It was pure, utter domination. The Eagles had twice as much of the ball, taking more marks in their forward third than the Dogs had across the entire field, whilst going at 85% efficiency compared to the Dogs' 60. The Eagles entered their forward zone 47 times, the Dogs only 20, which is not only a season low for them, but worryingly close to the amount of times that the Eagles rebounded it from said area with 17. This is inflated by passbacks, but still paints a picture of how devastatingly effective the Eagles were, both front and back. Jarrett was obviously the star performer with 42 touches and 23 goals straight, as well as 6 tackles, 6 centre clearances and 3 goal assists. However, a 5-metre penalty and a couple of turnovers under pressure only just prevent him from being the first person in this season to break the 300-point stat feeder mark. Adam Roque was typically thoroughly impressive, the Dogs rotating through 3 different midfielders just to try and stop him, but to no avail. By my eye, he only lost 4 of his 38 ruck contests, 21 of those hit-outs to advantage, and although he only had under 40 touches, 5 of those were from intercepts, 12 were attacking zone entries, 8 were rebounds, and 7 were assists. Suraj Habib returned to his brilliant best with his best game for a few weeks, just the 11 attacking zone entries and 3 goal assists from the back line, if you don't mind. Cooper Spillane had perhaps his best game by impact, 31 touches and a new league record 19 forward zone entries for 11 goal assists. 8 clearances and a goal capped off an insane performance. And a shout out to Danielle Hale as well, who in her limited time on ground racked up a statistical profile that, extrapolated to whole match length, would be worth 307 stat feeder points. Very, very impressive. Centrals weren't so much in this game as they were a canvas to be painted on, but there were still some moments. James Barker rotated through the midfield and added some grunt with 11 tackles, 6 1%ers and the Dogs' only defensive contest win, making him Central's only Centurion in terms of stat feeder points on the night. Michael Platten was moved into the forward line in the last, and he kicked his first seniors goal of the year and even doubled his money with a sublime finish on the move later on in the game. Sean Whitbread saw a lot of the ball, but as the Dogs' prime mover, he was targeted by the Eagles with a ferocious press all night that saw many of his disposals forced to no one in particular. 15 turnovers and 21 losing ruck contests saw him register only 7 points. A scary sign for the Redlegs, who have to face the primordial force that is Adam Roque in the best of his form next week. The final game again promised to be a one-sided encounter, but West didn't exactly let Norwood do everything they wanted. Jamie Smythe entered the game with an outside chance of recording his own 100-goal haul, needing to equal Jarrett's breaking of Smythe's old record to do so. It started slowly as West forced their usual ground ball pressure, only shipping through 5 goals whilst having 4 scoring shots of their own. Sadly, again, these 4 shots were mostly from long range, and Hallam Chitty missed 3. Just like he did last week, Smythe then turned on the Jets for a quarter, scoring 6 in the second alone to take his half-time tally to 9 and the Norwood lead to 63. Then the game just died. West played some very effective tempo football, which is a great sign for them, with Norwood only able to score 3 in the third quarter, all through Smythe. West were blanketing him hard, triple-teaming him in some cases, and resorting to some holds that, whilst against the rules, weren't quite seen by the umpires in the crush. Still, it was highly effective and encouraging for West, who shipped just the 2 goals in the final term. Smythe kicked 14 in the end, his second consecutive haul of that tally, but was definitely disappointed not to have kicked more, his frustration certainly showing in the final term, in particular as the West defence blanketed him semi-legally. But still, got the job done. He now needs 9 in the grand final to hit the century, with his average haul against the Eagles this year being 6. So unfortunately he's an outside chance, but I hope he gets there, because again, no one deserves to be stranded in the 90s. Norwood, of course, played well, but suffered from trying to feed Smythe probably too hard in the second half, turning the ball over often in trying to do so. They had their worst disposal efficiency of the year in this game. They were at their best when they were dictating the tempo of the play, mainly through their triumvirate of defender Chris Simpson and the midfield rotation in Rick Leonard and the returning Darren Schutz. Leonard and Schutz failed to lose a ruck contest all night, with 18 of their combined 22 hit-outs being effective, while Simpson racked up 7 clearances. The barbershop quartet of backmen weren't anywhere near as dominant statistically as they were last week, but in limiting West to 3 goals, they absolutely did their job in terms of controlling the defensive third. West, meanwhile, were terrific in all but one quarter. They controlled the pace when they had it, not afraid to kick it around the back for large chunks and frustrate their opposition, lowering the amount that they could be scored on. They took more marks than their opponent for the first time all year, which is hugely promising, whilst only getting 12 less touches and coming close to Norwood's lower than usual disposal efficiency. They led all teams this week in rebounds with 19, led by Giang Dan, who swipes his captain's record of 11, with his 12 rebounds being helped heavily by passbacks. Dan was the best for West, again winning more contests than his size would have you suggest, whilst racking up 40 touches and getting it forward 8 times. Billsborough wasn't his usual brilliant self, but still contributed with 7 forward entries, the highlight on his stat sheet, whilst Chitty's 8 tackles and 3 clearances did enough to help him get a Centurion status in the stat feeder points accrued despite kicking 3 goals 8. There's some great signs for West in this performance, and speaking to a couple of them after the game, there's a real confidence that they can really take it to Centrals next week and earn their first win. And if both teams play the way next week that they did this week, West have an incredibly real chance. So let's turn our attention to the team of the week. Rokie's name is already preloaded, as you'd expect, and once more Smythe and Jarrett make themselves locks with a combined 37 goals. This means both of our defenders need to be disabled, and thankfully the 4 or 5 best defensive performers once again meet this criteria. Spillane, who played 2 quarters of defence, makes it in easily, while his teammate in Suraj Habib ends a 5-week absence from this team to earn a 4th appearance. James Barker, although helped in his rating by midfield minutes, just edges out Jake Billsborough to earn a bench spot for the 2nd time this season. Our forward bench spot was easy to fill. He didn't get much of a mention so far, but Grant Leonard scored 4 first-half goals, assisted 3 and had 7 forward zone entries as he worked up and down the ground well all night, with Hallam Chitty unlucky to miss out purely on shot conversion. Both Norwood mids had a case to be selected, with Shuts going at 5.3 points per minute, which is a Roki level number, but Giang Dan makes it in once again for all-round contributions. He makes his 6th team of the week, the 4th time on the bench, and he makes a very good case to be West's best and fairest of this year. As for the rolling team of the year, Whitbread's performance this week sees him replaced by Grant Leonard, with Dan's role as an all-purpose replacement now on the bench. Suraj Habib also replaces Chris Simpson, which is a tough selection headache whose Nurofen will come next week when the two play off. The best performance in that grand final will probably earn the spot. Anyway, that's all for this week. Sorry that this one's been a bit rushed and I haven't got time to retake these these pieces of the camera over my neighbours doing some bloody angle grinding. But yeah, my schedule's changed, so haven't got as much time to record all these, so I'm having to do it now. Anyway, join me next week for the analysis of the SANFL finals. Really looking forward to that. After that, I'll have an awards show the week after for the season, and then that'll be it until the National Championships. So, see you then.